You've heard the saying that content is king, right? Well, it certainly is, but the question is, how do you measure your content marketing? How do you make sure that it drives positive ROI? Well, enter Tim, as he will not only teach us the 10 strategies of how you can actually work with content marketing, but also how to actually track the performance of what you do. Super crucial. I'm looking forward to this talk. The stage is yours. Let's go, Tim.
Welcome to Soulo. It's a pleasure to have you with us at Audible today. Our audience has been really excited for this interview, and I'm sure we're going to get to learn a lot of great things about content marketing, SEO, and obviously talking about the ROI of content marketing.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, Bill. Excited to talk about these things.
All right, so let's get to it. So you talk about the ROI of content marketing, being almost impossible to calculate. Why do you think that is the case? I mean, we do have so many analytical tools and attribution tools available nowadays.
So ROI of content marketing is the topic that has been creating debate all over the marketing circles for quite a while. And actually, to challenge the ability to calculate the ROI of content marketing, I have two quite vivid examples.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. What is ROI? ROI is when you put in some dollars to kind of create something into a certain activity, and you want to get kind of more dollars back. So with calculating how many dollars you put into your content, it is more or less straightforward, because you can calculate how many times people have spent on creating a piece of content, whether or not you had to include any images there, how much you've spent on promoting this content and all that. So calculating the investment is rather simple. Now, what about the outcome? One of the things that content can do for you is it can educate your customers on how to use your software, which then leads to less questions to your customer support team. Now, some people might immediately ask me, Tim, how do you know that your content actually reduces the number of questions that your customer support team gets? And yeah, we don't actually track that. I think it's a nightmare to track this kind of thing, but I do know that it works. And here's why: because I see the conversations that happen in our Facebook community, where one customer of ours would ask some question and another customer of ours would link to an article from our blog, which they have consumed before, so they don't have this question anymore. So not only people don't ask questions to our support team, they also can help fellow customers of Ahrefs if you have a community.
Yeah.
How do you calculate ROI of that? How do you calculate the ROI of not having to hire one more customer support employee or two more customer support employees, or maybe calculate the mental sanity that you allow your customer support representatives while they don't have huge load of customer support chats? So this is one example. Here's another example. If you create something useful on your website, like a piece of content that other people want to talk about and reference, think about it. Some bloggers in your industry might create their own piece of content that would reference your work, and they might link to it. So you are now getting brand exposure on their blog, and you don't have analytics access to their blog. Yes, you kind of can track your referral traffic that you're getting from this article, but things might not be as simple. They might just say, for example, this research was done by a SEO company called Ahrefs, which is my favorite tool, blah, 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 blah. So they mentioned you, and the person doesn't necessarily have to click the link and go to your website, but they can just remember it for the next time. So how do you calculate the ROI of those things? And so our conversation today was suggested by my recent tweet thread about the ROI of content marketing. And I actually suggested 10 examples of how we think and how we see that we are getting the return of investment on the investment in content, and why it is so hard to calculate. So these were just two examples of why it is so hard to calculate the actual ROI, like the full ROI.
Yeah. So it obviously feels like you have a more qualitative view to it, given that you have been able to see across the buyer's journey and across the business that content has been helping, as you said, with like even a few examples like that. I'm curious, like, do you actually track any metrics, or have you just seen an improvement across the business overall while doing content marketing for Ahrefs?
Yeah, so there are a few metrics that we track, but not that they have anything to do with the ROI, namely like how many dollars we're getting out of investing a certain number of dollars into content. So one super important thing that we track is if our content ranks at the top of Google for the topics that we're targeting. Because if your product is lucky enough to be in the industry where people are actively searching for the solution. So there are some products that people know exist, and so they search for them, or the problems that people know they have, and they search to solve this problem. And there are problems and products that people don't know of, so they wouldn't search for them. So you have to advertise to them rather than wait for them to search for you. So if you are lucky enough to be in the industry where people can search for you, or like for the things that you do, or the problems that they have that you can help them with, you have to be ranking at the top, because this is a lot of free traffic that is highly engaged and that is highly committed to solving their problem. So one thing that we absolutely monitor, whether it is a metric or not, we look at how many of our articles that are addressing specific search queries, specific problems that people are searching for in Google, how many of them are ranking at the top. So this is our goal. We want to rank number one for pretty much everything that we publish on our blog.
Okay.
In a similar way, we also track our search traffic. So because some problem that people search for, some search query, it might be super popular, so it might be bringing you thousands of people to your website. Another query might be not as popular. So we also want to know, like, if we are even addressing the search queries that are popular, and how the total amount of people that are visiting our website is changing over time. So these are the things we're tracking. And then we have some kind of side clues. So for example, like I just explained, when someone mentions your piece of content on their own website, they're linking to it, they're saying, they're giving some praise to it, they're saying how awesome it is and how useful it is. We look out for those mentions. So if people naturally link to us, reference our work and saying good things about it, this means that we are building our authority in the industry. This means that people perceive us as thought leaders in the industry. Because if you publish content, if you publish your ideas on your blog and no one cares, no one links to them, no one is tweeting them, no one is discussing them on Reddit, or maybe in some Slack communities or on forums, or even on conferences. Sometimes we even see our content in slides of people who are presenting from stage in different conferences. So I wonder if while watching AdWorld, I will see some of the research studies that we've done, or statistics that we have measured within our data. So yeah, we look for those clues to understand if our content helps us helps us build our reputation in the industry. So this is more or less how we kind of try to gauge if we are doing good work with our content marketing.
Yeah, that was going to be exactly my point, because if you're not tracking the ROI directly, you obviously know that it has an impact on your business, but at the end of the day, like, how do you optimize? How do you make sure that, topic A is a good one, or that we've done a good job at representing what the audience is looking for with that topic? Some of the points from your tweet mentioned, things that are like further across the funnel and further down towards the purchase, and even like support when putting together these pieces of content. So I actually wanted to ask, like, how do you break down like the customer journey, the buyer's journey? If you do that, then how do you position content across the buyer journey? Like, does it look any different? Does it have like a different format or any approach to it?
So this is a very interesting question. I continuously think about this buyer's journey and those like terms like top of the funnel content, middle of the funnel content, bottom of the funnel content, tofu, bofu, mofu, something like a menu of hip fusion restaurant. So I'm trying to understand, like, why would someone, like, can you take someone who is like at the bottom of the funnel? For example, they search for marketing software. That is, like, again, it is debatable. Where would you put this search query? Is it top of the funnel? Is it middle of the funnel? Is it bottom of the funnel? it depends actually on the situation with every specific customer. So for someone is searching for marketing software because they need to buy it today. So they're very much bottom of the funnel. Whatever like a reasonable marketing software that they will be able to find, they're buying it today because they need report to their like boss or something. Someone else is just looking for like what kind of marketing software exists because they want to consider it. So this is the first problem with the trying to assign specific search queries or specific topics to a place in the funnel. Another issue is if someone is looking for marketing software and they're just doing their top of the funnel research, so they want to understand what kind of software exists. Is there a way to convert them and walk them through those like stages of like consideration, desire, action, blah, 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 within one landing page or within one article? I say you can do this if you understand your customer well, and if you have a great product, and if you can address the potential questions that or concerns that a person searching for marketing software might have. You might as well take them from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel while they're reading one single article. And then another interesting thing is a lot of people are discussing that you should have different content strategy for people who have who are looking for your product, or like who are about to become your customers, your prospective customers. And then once they sign up, you have to do something else for them. You have to create some other form of content.
Like
I never understood this.
Something like that.
I never understood this, and I tried to crack like this nut in my head, like why would it work this way? Because in my opinion, a lot of people make a purchasing decision and make all their research before signing up to your software. So the reason they sign up for your software is because they consumed all the content that you have. They studied what kind of features you have and what kind of use cases you have and what kind of problems your software or your product can help them with. And this is why they're signing up for this, and they have a pretty much specific to-do list of things they want to do. So after they sign up, they don't really need your content much, because your content did the job of educating them. You educated them, and this is the reason why they are now paying you, because they know what your product does. So what kind of like how the content would be different once they sign up? I don't see this. Whenever you release a new feature, like the first urge is of course to create some piece of content that would explain how to use this feature and send it to your existing customers. Of course this makes sense, because those people are already paying, so they might appreciate knowing that you have some new feature that can help them with something new. But why won't your prospective customers not appreciate knowing that you are now solving one more problem for them? So I don't really see how to like what is the difference between addressing your content to people who are your customers already versus people who are like in consideration state. So at Ahrefs, we simply create content that addresses all sorts of problems that our product helps with, and that content, like, it's up to people when they want to find this piece of content. Usually they would have a problem, they would come to us and they would discover this piece of content.
That's quite interesting, and I think it like contradicts what a lot of like the status quo says, especially about SaaS companies, that you need to have content that drives awareness in your blog, and people get to that, they'll somehow make it the sign up form or the sign up page, and then you'll nurture them with like email nurturing content, which is
nurture is another thing I don't understand. Like, why, especially like drip feeding? Why would you drip feed like a single piece of advice like per day or per week to people? I'm sure that some of your customers who like signed up for your software, they might have allocated like 3 hours on their like Monday morning to study your software and perform a specific task. And you're only sending them like one piece of knowledge and like hiding everything else from them. So why don't you give them everything you have and make it up to them to decide if they want to do it or not? So I think a lot of these strategies, they come from kind of scammier side of marketing, where people would try to sell some kind of secret sauce products to people, and they do need to nurture, and they do need to create some kind of mystery around their product and drip feed email by email. Like, because in our industry, SEO, if you want to learn, for example, link building, and we only send you one lesson, but you need to learn link building today and like report to your boss or like introduce it to your team, you will go and search for other articles and you might start learning it from our competitors. So we want to, if you want to learn it, we need to provide you with all the like resources to learn it from us. So yeah, if you're hiding something, and if there is not something that cannot be found in the internet already, there is probably something sketchy. So I don't see another reason why you want to, why would you want to hide information from people and like drip feed it day over day? So maybe if someone disagrees with me, I would love for them to approach me maybe on Twitter and discuss this issue, because maybe I'm wrong about it. I don't know.
No, I mean, it does make sense the way you describe it, that, you don't want to hide your content from people, because especially as you said, they're going to get the information anyhow, especially if we're talking about the SEO industry. I'm sure it's people who are not afraid to look for the content or anything else that they want to find. No, that makes perfect sense. And, it ties well with something that I actually wanted to ask. So, you say, you have to put your content out there. You don't have to differentiate between like different stages of the funnel, or like if it's a product feature or hiding it somewhere. But how do you make sure, or like what kind of tools do you use to make sure that you're answering questions that your audience or like any potential user of Ahrefs is actually going to have? Like, how do you go about doing
that? Yeah, so the answer to this question is simple. We do keyword research. This is like the fundamental activity in search engine optimization, which basically makes you research whatever people are searching for in Google. So there are keyword research tools, and you need a tool for this. Like it is almost impossible to do keyword research without a tool, because you need the data about what people are searching for. And there are tools, Ahrefs being one of them, that provide you with the data. So all you need to do is you need to study what kind of search queries exist in the world or in Google specifically, that are related to your business. Usually people do this in two ways. First one is you search in those keyword tools for a word that kind of represents your business. For example, if you're selling products for cats, you search for the word cat, and the tool will give you all the search queries that mention the word cat in them. So what kind of food cats like is there clothing for cats? Is there cat care, like how to cure some cat diseases? So anything that has the word cat in it, the tool will give you. So this is one way to research what people are searching for that is related to your business. You just pick some relevant words that people might mention in their search queries, and you look at what kind of search queries exist and like how popular they are. Another popular way is to take the website of your competitor and again plug it into an SEO tool like Ahrefs, because our tool will show you all the keywords that they rank for. And if they have created some content, even without knowing that people search for it, maybe they have like an online shop and they have, again, their support team. And some people were asking the same question to their support team. So without doing keyword research, they simply addressed this question with an article, and it is getting tons of traffic because lots of people search for it. So unknowingly, without doing keyword research, they have targeted some very popular search query. And by researching what your competitors are ranking for, you also kind of doing keyword research, you're understanding what people in your industry are searching for. So there are like essentially two ways to find out what are the topics that are popular with your prospective customers. And the next important thing in terms of being sure that the content that you're creating has value for your business, and specifically when we're talking about the sales of the product, the retention rate, etc., we have a kind of made up metric called business potential for it. It means it is a simple score from 0 to 3, where we try to estimate how easy it would be for us to promote our product while writing an article on a specific topic. For example, if there's an article about weight loss, business potential of 3 would be some irreplaceable solution for the problem. So what is a replaceable solution to the problem? I think all the scientists agree that consuming less calories would be a replaceable solution. So some diet plan, some like educational material on like how to pick the right foods, or some like nutritional things. So those kinds of things would be a replaceable solution that is the easiest to sell because all the science is on your side. Business potential of 2 means that your product can be mentioned, but it is not. It is helpful, but it's not essential for solving the problem. So we already know that to lose weight, you need to consume less calories, but there are lots of products that are helping you. Some supplements, some even surgeries, or like when I was saying this example from stage, one guy said that the best way to lose weight is a divorce. Not something I recommend. So business potential of 2 is when you can mention your product and it is helpful, but it's not necessarily essential. Business potential of 1 means you can shoehorn like a mention of your product in the article, but the odds that people will buy it are slim because it's not very essential. So any fitness equipment would kind of fit the business potential of 1 if we're talking about weight loss, because again, the science agrees that burning calories is not the most efficient way to lose weight compared to like all the other methods. So it would be hard to sell fitness equipment from the article about selling weight. And business potential of 0 means you cannot even mention your product while covering the article. So again, I don't see how to mention cat food while writing an article about how to lose weight. That would probably be a very very dubious mention. These are essential, the fundamental things that we look at when creating our content. We look like what's the search traffic potential, what's the popularity of this issue or search query when doing keyword research, and then we estimate like what's the potential to promote our product while writing the article. How essential is our product to solving the problem?
And do you have to go for topics that have a highest business potential, or do you think that it doesn't really matter because you want to cover the topic anyhow, regardless of or not if you mention Ahrefs in the process?
You basically answered the question while asking it. It like essentially we do want to rank for all the topics that have some relation to our product. So of course we want to start with business potential 3, all the topics where our product is essential. But then at some point you're out of those topics and you need to move to business potential 2 and then business potential 1, and then probably even cover something that is so unrelated to your industry that you cannot mention your product there, but might be good for your like brand exposure and those kinds of things.
No, that makes sense. Like I also have another one as a follow-up to that, and talking about like content that your audience resonates with. Like you obviously have cultivated and grown a quite interesting and active Facebook group. I'm curious as to whether you receive feedback from them or whether you poll them from time to time, or do any research before writing an article, even in terms of like the questions that they're asking most or anything like that.
So your community and your following is a great way to crowdsource some content. For example, whenever we need to crowdsource a list, so there are like all sorts of list articles. For example, we have lists of even Facebook communities for SEO professionals. We have lists of podcasts for SEO professionals. We have lists of marketing newsletters. We have lists of Chrome SEO plugins, etc., etc., etc. So whenever we need to create a list of something, the easiest way is to poll the audience. What kind of software do you use? What kind of SEO Chrome plugin do you use? What kind of email newsletters are you subscribed to? Even like what kind of blogs you're reading. So your community is a great way to source some information. Or for example, whenever you're covering some topic and you need real examples, like a case study, you can again turn to your community and ask them like, did anyone ever do this? I'm looking for like examples of that. So your community is very useful in terms of making your content richer with examples.
However, you are saying, and I'm hearing that, you always start from keyword research or like trying to identify what the audience is looking for. And then if need be, you'll, get some feedback or gather some input from your community or whatever following you might have.
Like our content strategy is predominantly based on the search traffic, but from time to time, there would be some hot topic, or we might have a particularly interesting opinion that we want to share, even knowing that people are not searching for it. So it's not something that people search for. A very, very vivid example of such article is when we spent $50,000 on podcast advertising and didn't get any kind of ROI. So when we're talking about ROI, it's quite interesting that we didn't get any, and why we kept it, why we kept our podcast advertising budget, even knowing that it doesn't give us any leads. So we wrote an article about this, and no one is really searching for podcast advertising ROI. This is like, even if people are searching for it, it is a very unpopular search query. But that article struck a chord with people who are in podcast industry and with a lot of marketers who are considering podcast advertising. So this is why it kind of went semi-viral on Twitter, and a lot of people are referencing it to these days. So sometimes we would actually look at some interesting hot trends that are happening, or maybe we have a strong opinion that resonates with people, and we would write an article about this because it would perform well on social media. But in my experience, creating articles that would resonate with people on social media is much, much harder to do than simply figuring out what people are searching for and giving them that, because you already have all those keywords. You just need to pick whichever you feel credible and confident addressing. But when it comes to creating some viral piece, it is quite hard to come up with some, I don't know, disrupting, revolutionary, or interesting ideas that would resonate with people.
Makes sense. And by the way, like the article that you mentioned was quite a hit. Like I remember going through it and being like quite interested in your opinion on that.
You saw it?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And still
Nice.
still listening to mentions of Ahrefs on multiple podcasts to this day. So I'm assuming that despite the article and despite the ROI not being there, or you not being able to directly prove that it works, I'm like a potential user of Ahrefs. I have multiple accounts actually, and I am also listening to the ad. So I assume that somebody like me, or somebody who's looking for a tool like that, like a business owner or whatever your potential audience is definitely benefiting from that.
For sure.
Okay, so we talked about putting together like the right kind of content. What does your promotion strategy look like then? Because we know that historically the SEO community has been quite spamming trying to promote the content. Do you use any paid ads? Do you just do outreach? Do you just let your content rank organically? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the best kind of promotion that you can get for a piece of content is to make it rank organically. But to make it rank organically, you have to promote it. So we have this like chicken and egg problem. What comes first? So what we do is, the first step, like we promote content in 3 steps basically. The first step is to simply let our existing audience know that we published something new. So basically, we have email newsletter of people who are subscribed to our blog. We have our Facebook community. We have people who follow us on Twitter, etc., etc. And of course, after publishing a new article, we would tweet it to our followers. We would send it as an email newsletter and all those things. And of course, what we also do, which is not as straightforward, because most people would like tweet their articles and share them like on social media, etc. So what we also do is we take snippets, like individual ideas from those articles, and tweet them as well to get traction for the actual ideas, not necessarily for exact article. And we don't include a link in the tweet. And the reason we don't do this is because social networks like to keep people within the social network. So whenever you link somewhere, the engagement of your tweet goes down, and the traction that your tweet gets lower. So this is why we take individual ideas from our articles and we post them on Twitter, and people retweet them, like them, discuss them, etc. And eventually someone who is interested to read the article would ask like, where is this from? And ourselves or someone else would link to the article where the idea or some image or infographic is coming from. And like people who want to check it out would see it, or like even people, anyone knows how to use Google. So if you take like a phrase from an image, you can find the source of the article. And usually on the actual image, we will have the URL of the article. So it still like drives people there. So yeah, first step is to share the article or the ideas from your content with your own audience. Then of course, paid promotion. So again, we're talking about ROI and how much resources and money you invest into creating content. So if you have spent a certain amount of money to create content, why cannot you justify spending a little more money to actually promote it? Because I remember in my DJ days, I used to be a DJ before starting a career in SEO. We wanted to promote an event that was happening in our club. And our management, they hired like a truck, and on the truck they had sound system, and I was supposed to be riding on the truck and playing music, and the truck should go around the city. And so they spent I don't remember the actual sum, but let's say it costed them $1,000 for all the equipment, for hiring a truck, etc. And that was for 2 hours. And extending for third hour costed like $100 more.
Okay.
So you have $1,000 investment for 2 hours, but to make it 3 hours, you should pay $100 more. And they were like debating, should they spend an extra $100? And I was like, guys, like it's not even a question. Like this is a great deal to get more exposure, like for this amount of money. So I see the same trend with the creating content. So if you spend a lot of resources, if you try to calculate how much resources you spend on a good piece of content, another like $100 or $200 to throw in Facebook ads would probably be 10 or 20% from the cost of the piece of content, given that it is a quality article, not something you bought on Fiverr like for $15 or something. So this is why we actually promote our content quite heavily, and we have initial budget that we invest into promoting our articles on Twitter, on Facebook, etc. And then we look at the performance. If we see that people engage with the ad, if they like it, if they discuss it, if they retweet it, then we might double or even triple the budget and see like how it goes. Once the ad frequency goes too high, we would of course stop, because we don't want to irritate people. So yeah, that's the second thing. After promoting to our audience, we obviously use ads, because we just think it would be stupid not to use them, regardless of the like, if we get conversions or not. We don't bother about it. We spend resources on creating that freaking piece of content, so you have to be sure we're going to spend resources showing it to the world. And the third thing is back to ranking, because we want our article to rank in Google. Just from the first two promotional strategies, we might get some natural backlinks and rank somewhere in top 10 or even sometimes in top 5 just naturally. But sometimes if it is not enough and we need to get more backlinks, so sometimes we would do some targeted outreach and show the article to some people who have websites in our industry, so they're capable of linking to us, because they might not necessarily have seen our ads, or they might not be subscribed to our email newsletter or such. So we want to let them know that we have this awesome piece of content. And we don't kind of beg for links. We don't say explicitly, please link to us, because if your piece of content is good and then the person has their own blog or their own website where they regularly cover some new stuff, they would naturally link to you if your content is linkable in the first place, if it is not noteworthy. But yeah, it is very important, if you're not getting enough backlinks, it is very important to do some targeted outreach and show your piece of content to other people. But you have to be very careful, and you cannot do this for every piece of content, and you have to make sure that what you're showing people is amazing in the first place.
Oh, that's a valid point. So we talked about like social shares and being like sort of like viral, getting backlinks, and also getting obviously the organic rankings. Do you try and optimize for all three, or is like the organic ranking the one that at the end of the day drives your process and your system?
Yeah, so we try to, of course, optimize for ranking in Google, but like it depends. So the favorite answer to most questions in SEO and marketing, it depends. So it really depends on the topic. Some topics are so boring, so straightforward, that there's no way to make them interesting. People just want like step-by-step explanation how to do something, and it's not something that would go viral on Twitter. It's not something that is controversial even in the slightest way, so that to sparkle discussion. So like there's no way to kind of optimize it to go viral. Other topics, they might have indeed some potential to be discussed online, or we might have some controversial opinions or ideas that we can present in our article on a seemingly conventional and boring topic, and this is when people would discuss it. So usually our goal is to do something interesting, to do something new, which has potential to be discussed. But sometimes it is simply not possible, and we don't force ourselves if we don't see a way to do this.
Okay, that's a completely valid one. So, we obviously know that video is more important than ever, and I do know that you have like a quite booming YouTube channel on the side. Do you have a different strategy for that? Do you include it as part of like your main content strategy? How does that tie into everything?
Yeah, so with video, probably the best person to answer this question is our video genius Samo, who is in charge of our YouTube channel. He has been researching this platform for quite a while and trying to figure out like what to do and how to do it better. So there are some specific things that you need to know about YouTube and how it works and how to create your videos in a better way that would help you grow your channel. But again, our YouTube channel basically started from repurposing our existing content, the stuff that we had on our blog, into YouTube videos. And it took Sam quite a while to cover all those topics that we already have covered on our blog before he was challenged with having to think of some unique ideas. So yeah, video is quite a popular thing. YouTube is quite a popular website, and there is, I'm sure, like in every industry, there are people who would, and like again, it depends on the topic. With some topics, you would prefer to read an article about it. With other topics, you would prefer to watch a video. And again, depending on where you are, for example, when you're at work, you would probably prefer to read an article. But when you are like jogging or like working out or commuting, you might prefer a video because it's just easier to consume. So I would recommend people to, if they have an opportunity, to have both. And if you already have the content on your blog, it's not actually that hard to start repurposing it on YouTube. And it's not that hard to figure out YouTube as a platform. There are just like a few key things that you need to master. And a lot actually depends on your content. So if your content is boring in the first place, if no one was tweeting your content, if no one was linking to it, if no one was discussing, then probably it would fail on YouTube as well. But again, we were having quite a bit of success with our blog and with some specific topics. For example, that article with podcast advertising, we sure repurposed it into a video, and it performed quite well. People were discussing it on YouTube as well. So yeah, whatever works to you for you on your blog, it has quite good chances to work on YouTube as well.
Makes sense. And what does your content marketing process look like from an operational standpoint? Do you have like weekly meetings, somebody putting together the content, you or somebody else reviewing it, publishing, then promoting and stuff like that? Like, what does that look like on a maybe weekly or monthly basis?
So it is mostly quite hectic and random. We did do our fair share of keyword research. So we studied like every competitor we have, what kind of keywords they rank for. We regularly use our own tools to do keyword research and to come up with some new interesting keywords to target. And then whenever we have some ideas, when we see people discuss something on Reddit, on Twitter, we would of course go to our keyword research tool and probe like, is this something that has like a decent search volume? Should we be publishing it? So we already have a huge list of keywords that we want to target on our blog, and that list keeps growing just like naturally. So it's not that we have a task once a month, we should do like a follow-up keyword research and add more keywords. No, it happens naturally. You follow the industry, you look what people are talking about, you look what sites in the industry are publishing, and you kind of add some interesting ideas to your master list as they come. And then within this list, we have those things that we discussed. We have the search traffic potential of a topic. We have the business potential. Can we mention our stuff there? And then we have how hard it would be to rank there. So there's this thing called keyword difficulty, which is mostly based on how many backlinks the top ranking results have, because to rank at the top, you will probably have to get as many backlinks as the top ranking results. And then one important thing is, who is the best person to create content on the topic? Mm-hmm. For example, we have quite generic topics, for example, like best email newsletters. Anyone can write an article about best email newsletters, especially if you have access to some community which you can poll, and they would give it to you, and then you just need to do some research of best email newsletters and write something about each newsletter. Easy. So like anyone can write an article like that. But for example, if we're talking about some hot SEO topic right now, core web vitals, this is quite a technical topic. For example, I know nearly nothing about it, but we have Patrick Stokes, who is our technical SEO genius. And whenever we have a super technical SEO topic, we just pass it to Patrick. So when creating content, you have to also understand, do you have the proper person to create content for this topic. So before we had Patrick on our team, we were actually avoiding complicated technical SEO topics on our blog, because of course we could read a bunch of articles by other people and create our own, but that wouldn't be the kind of content that we are known for in our blog, because we like to publish original content that is based on our experience, that is based on our data, etc., etc. And now when we have Patrick, we are confident that he, with his own knowledge and experience, he can address those topics in a very unique way, and other people would be actually piggybacking from his content. So one important thing about the kind of content marketing process is that you have to be assigning the topics to the proper person on your team, and you cannot expect some cheap copywriter from Fiverr to address, I don't know, complex financial topics and give, I don't know, your readers advice on where they should invest their money without having invested $1 in their own in their life. So yeah, you have to pick the proper people. And in terms of meetings or anything like that, we don't really have this. Our communication is quite asynchronous. So we usually discuss ideas in Slack if needed. And we have Josh, who is in charge of our blog. He kind of keeps everyone aligned. So he makes sure that our articles are following more or less the same guidelines in terms of style, in terms of how we approach content, in terms of how much we prove our points and give examples and proof links, as they say. It's quite random, and I think in every organization it would be different. So I don't think that our example would be particularly useful for people, apart from those things that I just shared.
No, that makes sense. And I love how you use the search potential or like the business potential for any different topic as a filter, like, any new idea that comes up or any trending topic, like, is it actually worth writing about? Like, is there the search volume there? Because, obviously at the end of the day, your goal is to rank organically on Google. And I'm just like curious, as we start wrapping up, if there's like any other element to your strategy, like what does a strategy for a B2B blog, like obviously Ahrefs is, need to look like or should look like?
Well, the strategy should basically be something that we were just discussing. You have to understand how your content contributes to your business, because for ourselves, the ROI is massive. So again, let me mention some of the things from the original tweet thread. So our content helps us attract customers because they're finding us in Google and they're converting into customers. It helps us retain customers because existing customers learn about some new features and how to use our software, and so they stay longer. It helps us to reactivate customers because as we're publishing about the advancements of our software within our articles, and we are telling people the new use cases that we cover, some people who have used Ahrefs before but canceled reactivate their accounts because they want to use our software again. It helps accelerate. It also promotes the account expansions, like when people upgrade to a higher plan or buy some additional features, because again, they learn about those features from our content. We don't have to have any like sophisticated email marketing or like automated sequences. When they go somewhere, we will send them an email to kind of nudge them to buy a specific feature. They just read our content, they figure out that there's something that is not supported on their account, and they upgrade. Then we have word of mouth, because when people learn how to use your software, they pass this knowledge to other people, for example, to their co-workers, and then this co-worker might go to another company and they would request to use Ahrefs because this is the software that they know and understand. Then support, which I talked about, then thought leadership, which I talked about. Then again, interviews like this one. Our content opens up the doors to all sorts of interviews and conferences, because the organizers of those conferences, they already see what kind of content you're putting out, what kind of ideas you're putting out, what you stand for, and they can make a decision if they want the audience of their conference to be exposed to those ideas. So there are lots and lots of things that our content helps us with, and therefore we don't need to specifically measure ROI. And for the companies that are considering to build their content marketing engine, this is again something they need to think through if they need those things, if they want to position themselves as thought leaders, if they can, because again, ranking in Google takes time. So do you have time to build up your acquisition channel for like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or do you need those leads right now? Because content marketing is not something that venture-backed companies would usually use, because they need to grow fast. And if you want to grow fast, you need those customers today, not tomorrow. So yeah, those are the things that you should think about when you're considering to build your own content marketing strategy.
No, that's a really valid point. And indeed, like SEO and content marketing is probably not like the first channel that somebody looks to, but it's also definitely, and you can testify to that, one of the channels that, long term, and in terms of like the investment you put out of it, like the ROI is obviously huge. So it's not something that you should treat lightly. So, we have time for one more question. And, I've been really glad that you've walked us through your process and your way of thinking, which is obviously quite different to what people are used to. So, how do you see content marketing and SEO evolving in the coming years with the rise of things like voice search, the importance of mobile video being part of the game?
I don't really know how it would change kind of technologically. For example, I don't quite see how voice search changes anything for content marketers. You still have to create great content, whether it is being searched for like with your fingers or with your voice. One shift that it's not that I'm seeing it happening, but I'm hoping it would happen, is that people would create more and more original content. So people would probably get tired of creating copycat content, because it is very hard to get traction when all you're doing is hiring cheap writers who read a bunch of similar articles and create a copy of their own. So what I hope will happen is that people in the content marketing industry would learn from the journalist industry, from media industry. Because what journalists do, a journalist can infiltrate some criminal group and live with them for a year and do some assignments just to be able to then write a column like from inside how it operates. So I would love to see more of that in the content marketing world. I would love for content marketers to consider themselves not just writers who open like a Google document and write words on a like blank sheet of digital paper. I want them to consider themselves like journalists, experimenters, researchers. I want them to dig to the bottom of things, to speak to people, to do experiments, to infiltrate that freaking criminal group and create something interesting that no one has created before them. So it's not just about writing words on a piece of paper, it's about having something meaningful to say. So I do think that it will eventually happen, because those people who do this today, they win like in Google, they win in brand awareness, they win as thought leaders. And so with over time, more and more of those people will appear. So it would be simply harder to penetrate the search results. It would be simply harder to get attention on social networks unless you're doing this level of work that those people are doing.
No, I know that. I think that's one of the most like strategical things, like thinking not, as you said, as a writer, but as a journalist, or even like as a creator who always has to put something new out there. And of course, like original content, as you said, is I think a great hack for content marketing, for SEO, for anything you're doing and trying to promote in your business. All right. So thank you very much for your time. I'm sure our audience has enjoyed and gotten as many insights from this conversation as I have. It has been a pleasure, absolute pleasure having you with us today.
Thanks a lot for having me. I enjoyed this conversation as well. Thanks for great questions.
My pleasure.